A former police crisis negotiator says there are strict rules for checking on and caring for prisoners in police custody, and records have to be signed off by a senior officer. 3 police officers are facing manslaughter charges following a death in custody at the Hawera station just over a year ago. The charges allege the officers were grossly negligent in their duty of care to the 55-year-old man. The trio has been stood down from duties. During his career in the force, Lance Burdett led an investigation into a serious alleged assault by police officers. We spoke via video Skype a little earlier, and I started by asking him how high the threshold is for manslaughter charges.
For manslaughter in general, there has to be, well, first of all, for any death, I mean, it's a tragedy that this has happened, and for any death, there has to be a link, and it's called a causal link. In other words, there's a direct cause attributable to somebody else for the death. So that's the first indicator. Now, manslaughter is a little bit reduced. I think in America, a place like that, they call it murder in the 3rd degree. So it means that something either has or hasn't been done that is a direct link to the death.
So the police statement says very little, but there is a paragraph that's quite interesting. It says that the allegation is that the officers were grossly negligent in their duty of care to the victim and that this negligence was a causal factor in their death. Does that tell us much?
Yes, they obviously, well, I don't know anything about the case. I don't think many people do, but something has happened where they haven't done something that they were supposed to have done, but it has to be more than perhaps they haven't made a check or they haven't done, a process. So when somebody's arrested, if I take a step back, when somebody's arrested, you go through a process and you ask a number of questions, and some of those questions are about health and well-being. And you, according to the list that you fill out, the form you fill out, gives you a risk factor. And from that determines how you deal with that person. So it might be if they've got a medical condition or perhaps unstable in their thoughts, that it's on the person who's processing them to get some medical help, some assistance. And it could be as much as every hour checking on them, down to 30 minutes, down to 15 minutes. Perhaps if it's somebody who is suicidal, it might be putting a person watching them 24 hours a day and getting medical treatment. So it depends on the risk factors involved as to what you should or shouldn't do.
We know from the original press release that the police put out that the person who was arrested is described as intoxicated. So where alcohol is involved and you are placing someone in custody, what generally are the requirements in keeping an eye on that person?
Yeah, so the rules are slightly different when it's in intoxication. So it's from memory, 15-minute checks. So every 15 minutes there has to be a check made. But, for somebody that's intoxicated, and depending on where it is and where the station is, et cetera, and I realise it's Hawera, it's not a busy place. It may be that you have to sit with the person. I would certainly, if they were severely intoxicated, it might be an opportunity to get a doctor or a nurse, and even a nurse would do. And again, it depends on that level of intoxication. And it could be that the person's quite lucid, drunk, but lucid, and then they become drunker because they've consumed excess alcohol just before being arrested. So it's quite a fine line.
So who checks the checkers? Who keeps an eye on the police officers to make sure that they've ticked the right boxes and they're following the right regime in terms of looking out for the person in custody?
Staff come under a direct supervisor, and that direct supervisor under another. So there is some checks. Now, every time that you do a check on a person, and let's call them a prisoner, but certainly a person in custody, you fill out a book. You sign a book to say that I've done those checks and I've done them at specific times. And so you sign it and it's countersigned. Now, the officer in charge of the station, it's their duty then to go and check that those checks have been done and to cross-reference, etc. And the cross-reference could be from video footage. Most stations have them these days, just to make sure that the rules have been followed.
So you've been involved in prosecutions against police officers. How difficult are they? And I mean, this is a small station and you are potentially looking at sworn officers giving evidence against other officers who they may be closely associated with.
Yeah. And again, police are sworn, you're sworn in to become a police officer at the start. And in that swearing in process, it is the protection of life and property, but also to do it according to the values of the police. And there's certain, people have pride in the police. I had pride in the police and what I did. Yeah, I mean, we all make mistakes on occasion, but as a general rule, I mean, who hasn't made a mistake? This is more than a mistake. Something has happened. Something quite bad has happened to cause what's occurred here.
And certainly that is the allegation. So, I mean, what does strike you the most from what you know about this?
It's not something that's been taken lightly. So looking at the media statement, the press release that's come out, police consulted quite rightly with the Crown prosecutor, but then either them or the Crown prosecutor has then gone to a Queen's Counsel. So they've taken this to the highest level and they've put two or three, so there's the police, there's the prosecutor and the Queen's Counsel across this to say, yes, there has been something that needs to be looked into here.
Just before you go, obviously you would have been watching what's been going on overseas in America. Do you have any concerns now that we're looking at a situation where 3 police officers in New Zealand are facing very serious allegations?
Yeah, look, I hope there's no connection. I can't see there being a connection. I don't know enough about the New Zealand case. But what I will say about what's going on in America is, and it's something that we promote in our business, is humility. Now, if you look at all what's going on in America, the ones where the districts have had the best, and I think Miami, police officers came out of their station to police the protest and they all took a kneel. And that said, we are with you. And you'll see it right across. There's those beautiful pictures of, and that's what police are about as a general rule. They are there to help. And on occasion, they get it wrong.